When I was a kid, I spent every summer in my grandparents' chateau in the south of France. And my grandmother, who was from haute bourgeoisie, taught me how to dress, act, and speak like the 1%. I later became an international business lawyer on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Today, I can spot in half a second if somebody is the real deal or if they're faking it. Many people are fake, especially online, but you're not going to be able to tell if you don't know the codes yourself. With this video, I want to share with you what immediately says fake rich so that you can spot the fakes and also feel confident as you are entering higher levels of society. The first thing that immediately gives away that somebody is faking it is the poor quality of materials, even if they're branded and even if they're expensive. Knowing the difference between full grain and top grain, different qualities of cashmere, hand stitching and machine stitching requires long-term exposure and education, whereas buying logos or expensive brands only requires money. It is this long-term exposure that gives the real rich the ability to spot right away if materials are good or bad quality. When yourself you display an ability to recognize and choose high-quality materials regardless of brand or price, you convey that you yourself have this education. Therefore, you're going to be perceived by the real rich as somebody who belongs to the same social background. Also, logos are made to be recognized instantly. Neuroscience on social signaling even shows that very visible logos activate comparison circuits between individuals. When somebody chooses to sport high-quality materials instead of a very fancy logo, they are showcasing that they don't care about external validation. That way of thinking is also an insider code. High society people are not going to judge you on the amount of money that you were able to spend on your clothing. They're going to judge you on the taste that you put into selecting your outfit. The more old and inherited your outfit, the better. And that takes me to my second point that gives away immediately that the person is faking it or it's a new environment for them, is that they are going to wear everything brand new. The worst that you could do from that perspective, if you want to look like you're the real deal, is to buy a brand new outfit for a specific event, because it looks like you didn't have anything in your wardrobe that would have been suitable for that event. You might be able to notice when you look at wealthy individuals that their wealth looks very lived in. It's not trendy, it's not newly assembled, and above all, it looks very comfortable. And there is a general principle in social psychology that says that the more visible the effort is, the lower the status of the person. Coming to a high society event in a brand new outfit is actually going to lower your status than if you came with pieces that you're used to wearing and in which you feel comfortable. Because if you're dressing normally, it means that these kinds of events are normal to you. Third thing that says fake rich right away is a lot of cosmetic procedures and very extravagant grooming. Once again, because the more effort is put into looking a certain way, the lower the status perception. When cosmetic work is highly visible with a lot of filler or a lot of Botox, it shows that the person is not naturally confident in their own features and therefore that they're not confident in themselves. And from a signaling theory perspective, exaggeration signals insecurity. You will see high society women who are secure in themselves amplify selectively, meaning they'll highlight only a few attributes, the ones that they find the most beautiful and that they think should be highlighted, whereas insecure individuals tend to amplify everything. This, from a high society perspective, screams I don't belong and I'm faking it. The fourth thing that immediately gives a fake away is clothing that looks uncomfortable. And that's because people perceived as high status move slower, take up space more naturally, and show lower visible anxiety. If you are constantly adjusting your dress, tiptoeing because your heels are too high and they hurt, you're going to communicate tension. And tension signals effort. We want, above all, to avoid showing effort. We want to look as natural as possible, as if this was a normal Tuesday for us. Your ability to move gracefully, to be still, to not have a lot of pacifying movements when you're talking to somebody is going to convey so much more status than what you're wearing. So it's extremely important that you pick an outfit in which you feel like you're yourself and in which you can move comfortably. That's going to convey that you belong. If there is something that you need to check about your outfit, go to the bathroom, do a full check, and then come back and stop wondering about your outfit. Trendy, by definition, is not timeless. If you're sporting something trendy, it shows that you have acquired it recently and therefore that you care about being in. And one of the ways the upper class maintains distinction with the lower class is by ignoring those shifts and being in that sort of timeless bubble where things don't really change, they just get better with age. And there is also an economics behavioral signal that somebody with trendy pieces sends, that they consume rather than they invest. Upper class people usually have wealth, either inherited, either built, so they know the difference between investing and spending. Investing is when you buy something for life that you're going to carry, take care of, and maybe pass on to your grandchildren, whereas consuming answers an emotional need for immediate gratification. In the case of trends, it's feeling that you belong, feeling that you're better because you're aware of what's happening in fashion and you have the financial means to spend and to show that you have that position. But that actually signals right away that your mindset around money is very immature to some extent, to somebody who is very familiar with the idea of long-term wealth and long-term compounding interest of money. If you love a trendy piece, maybe reserve it rather for brunch or moments with your friends, rather than for events where your cultural background and your status are going to matter in your ability to get opportunities. In terms of behaviors that immediately give a fake away, and I think you're going to be really surprised, the first one is a very rigid use of etiquette. If you grew up around etiquette, you've grown up around rules that are just home rules. So you don't really think about those rules as etiquette. Whereas if you've had to learn them, you're going to perform them in a much more scholar manner, like a student, and it's going to show that you didn't grow up with these rules. And to be truthful, I always feel a little bit uncomfortable when I see a lot of etiquette rules or manners on social media. These are not really the rules that high society people live by, not as strictly. When you are exposed to content like this, what you see is a compilation of movements or behaviors or just ways of being that the upper class is going to use naturally. You shouldn't think that it is the only way of holding your teacup or sitting, that if you do it otherwise, then it's going to give away that you're a fake. At the contrary, if you are too uptight about it, that's when people are going to think, oh, she learned it off Instagram. If you are at a high society event and you want to show your respect for the place and your knowledge of the rules, it's going to be much better to only perform the etiquette rules that you're really comfortable with. If there is a behavior that you're not sure about, ask. Show that you don't know and that you're interested in learning. Because this environment is the natural environment of a high society person, they are going to feel that you're more like them if you are comfortable. The second set of behavior that gives a fake away, if you hear somebody say, oh, I was just having dinner with X. Oh, I'm just back from X place that is extremely expensive. Oh, this, yes, I just bought it for X amount of money. Then you know that this person is underconfident and that they need to prove their worth through the amount of money that they're able to spend. You should also know that traditionally, high society people, especially French high society people, are very discreet about money. It's considered a little vulgar, not a little, it's considered vulgar to talk about money. So if you want to belong, especially if you come from a culture where talking about money is encouraged, it's going to be better to keep that quiet and shine through other ways. Traditional high society people will gladly discuss numbers in a meeting room when they're talking about making a contract or a business deal, but it's something that they'll shy away from during events, because the point of the event is not to talk about things that are so vile. Third thing that immediately gives away that somebody is faking it is that they're going to use a lot of fancy words. I believe it comes from thinking that if you have a very complex vocabulary, it means that you have a very high education. Therefore, you prove that high education by using all your fancy words. But there is a bit of a subtleness in it. Of course, you shouldn't talk to somebody high status with street slang. That's not gonna work. What really matters is that you show respect. Your level of your language is not going to be what makes a difference. What is going to make people connect with you and like you is the quality of your conversation. So that's your ability to listen and your ability to ask questions. Using overly formal or luxury vocabulary with upper class people is also going to signal that you're not on the same level. If you are with somebody who's upper class in their living room on a Sunday, it's going to be chill. People are going to naturally speak very well, that is true, but not with extremely complicated words. The fourth thing that shouldn't happen, treating people of service differently. When somebody is having a conversation with somebody higher rank and the waiter brings the tray with the champagne and they'll just take the champagne and not interrupt their conversation to thank the person, that is a big telltale sign that you need to establish rank. An upper class person would not think that there is any different in worth between themselves and the people helping them. Worth is so inherent to them. It's not something that they need to prove or that they need to establish. There are two pathways to status, one that is bad and one that is good. The bad one is dominance, and that is based on control and intimidation. The second one, which is the one that you want to aim for, is prestige, and that is based on respect and competence. You're going to get your way in both situations, but in the first one, you're going to hurt the long-term compounding of your reputation, whereas in the second one, the compounding is going to be favorable. You're going to have more opportunities, you're going to advance your career more, your business more, and you're going to have better, more fulfilling relationships. The last thing that gives away that somebody is fake is when they're taking a lot of pictures of themselves posing. There is obviously no problem in taking pictures of yourself for memory's sake. What will be way less well perceived is taking pictures for status, for Instagram, for social media in general. Because when luxury is familiar, you'll take pictures like if you were in your living room or with your family. When luxury is unfamiliar, you'll take a lot of Instagram pictures, you'll pose, you'll be sure to have your best angle, usually you're dressed a bit too theatrically, and this gives away immediately that you are not used to being here and therefore that you don't belong. Even though you might want to get that perfect picture in the staircase of the Ritz, it's actually going to look much more real and much more wealthy if you're just taking a cute picture at breakfast. Candid pictures in luxury environments are going to make you look like you're the real deal, because the real deal is casual about luxury. And if this video made you realize that people are reading into micro signals way more than you thought, and you would like to master those signals, you would like to know how to dress, you would like to know how to speak, you would like to know how to act in a way that would be perceived as you belonging from the start to that upper class society. I offer 5 private consultations every month that are fully personalized and tailored to your situation, where we go through your wardrobe, the way you speak, the way you behave, the way you stand, where you unconsciously lower your status when you don't need to, so that you can correct those behaviors and be comfortable entering higher level rooms. If that is something that you think would benefit you, I invite you to apply through the link in the description. I review every single application myself to ensure that there is a mutual fit, and if you don't see any changes within 90 days, I will work with you free of charge until you do. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed what you saw, I invite you to subscribe, and in any case, I will see you very happily in the next one. À bientôt!